There's a building for sale in Norwalk, Connecticut, 160,000 square feet, and the seller is asking $1.5 million. And all the, in quotes, smart real estate investors have passed on it. It is occupied by a really low-end, very junky department store that's selling really junk merchandise, and it's, you know, just sort of a junky building with a junky use, and nobody wanted to buy it because the seller was asking too much. And again, here's me, you got to own real estate to be a real estate entrepreneur, so I got to figure out, I say to myself, how to buy this building. So I go to the seller and say, hey, would you give me an option for 90 days, and I'll pay $25,000 for the option, which was about all the money I had to my name, to buy your building for $1.6 million, $100,000 more than he was asking, and you, Mr. Seller, will take back a $1.1 million first mortgage. And I'm sure he thought to himself, oh, I'll never see this kid again. Sure, I'll do that. And so he gave me 90 days to buy his building for $1.6 million. He would take back a $1.1 million first mortgage. So now I've walked out of there. I say, okay, I now have some real estate tied up. Now where the heck am I going to get the $500,000 I need to buy the building? Really, $475,000, as you know, an option. The option money is applied against the sale price if you go forward. If you don't go forward, you forfeit the option money. So I need to come up with $475,000. It's early in my career. I have no track record. I have nobody to turn to, no prospective partners, no bank, no nothing. So again, I start making my lists. I'm young and youthful and excited and high energy, and I think I'll come up with something. If I didn't think that, I never would have invested or potentially wasted the $25,000. So I go see the operator of the junky department store, the guy who's the president of the company, just because I don't know what else to do. That was one of maybe 10 things I was doing at the time. And I go introduce myself. Hi, I'm Jim Randel. I'm buying the building you lease. How you doing? He says, okay. I said, well, you know, do you get along well with the seller, the landlord? He says, yeah, it's okay. He keeps just like these bland, yeah, it's okay, yeah, it's okay. And I'm sensing that he's not really happy in the location. So I say, well, do you like the location? No, not really. Well, you're not going to break your lease, are you? No. But I might be able to be talked out of my lease. So now little teeny bells going off in my head. He's not happy. He wants to get out. He's got other stores. He's not a, you know, bad credit. He's a good credit, and he's got like 6 more years on his lease. So I say, would you want to get out of your lease? Would you be willing to buy out of your lease? And he says, I might consider that. And now that bell is starting to ding a little louder. Here's what happened. He agreed that if I owned the building, he'd give me $500,000 to terminate his lease. Now I'm thinking, this is easy. What a great business. Now I have to find $500,000 first to be able to buy the building before I can tear up his lease. You have the sequence. Until I own the building, I can't tear up his lease. So I start going through the yellow pages. I got to find a banker who's going to loan me $500,000 for 1 day. That's all I need. Because if I can buy the building, display to the tenant that I'm now the owner, he'll give me $500,000, and I'll pay off the bank. I'll own the building. And finally, I find somebody who was kind of bored that day, and he listened to me, and he says, all right, I'll loan you $500,000, but I got to go along to the closing. I got to hold the money. I got to hold the deed, and I require that the tenant put the $500,000 in escrow, and as soon as you display a deed, the $500,000 comes out of escrow. And so he loans me $500,000. He gets in the car with me. He doesn't let go of the check. He's now one of my best friends. We laugh about this story today. But it wasn't funny because he knew if things screwed up, he was out of a job. So we go to the seller. The seller, we give him the $500,000. He can't believe that we were able to come up with it. He gives us the deed. We go to the tenant. The escrow agent says, you're now the owner. Here's $500,000. My banker friend grabs it, pays himself back. I now own this big building, 160,000 square feet, Norwalk, Connecticut. Now, while I'm congratulating myself, I go over to look at the building. The tenant knew he was going to be vacating, so it's empty. So I'm in 160,000 square feet, 4 acres under roof, nothing but me and a bunch of pigeons. And it's scary because now I got 30 days when I got to make tax payment, insurance payment. You know, now I got to start scrambling again. And as things happen, you know, the glass is half full. I get a call the next day from a broker out of Boston, and he says, hey, I heard you bought that big building in Norwalk, Connecticut. Do you have 5,000 square feet you could rent to a manufacturer's outlet client of mine? And I say, manufacturer's outlet, what is that? He says, well, it's when a manufacturer wants to sell direct to the public. I said, well, are there other such stores? He said, sure, just get in your car, drive up to Maine, and you'll see all these stores. They're all up there. So I go to Maine, I see all these stores. So I call them up, I say, you know, do these manufacturers' outlets, do they like to be all together under the same roof? He said, sure. So we start, this is sort of reminiscent of the self-storage story, and it also is the same refrain changed the paradigm of the building. We had this big old factory, which had a real junky department store, and now we start building with 2x4 sheetrock and chicken wire little outlet stores. And in about a year's time, we have the building completely leased to manufacturers' outlet stores. And 3 years later, you know what we sold that building for? We were into it for $1.6 million, none of which was our money. This is the happy ending, get ready. $10.6 million. Why? We didn't make big changes to the building. Minimal changes. We just did this chicken wire, sheetrock, and a little bit of marketing program to get manufacturers' outlets in there. But in the investment community, this building, which once housed a junky old department store and was an industrial feeling building, there had been a paradigm shift. It was now this factory outlet shopping center. Now, because life and investing and entrepreneuring always has a yin-yang to it, I'm going to give you the little coda on this story to show you that I'm not so smart as, you know, this deal would make you think. About a year into the deal, there's this linen store, my second tenant, selling, you know, a real small store, selling towels and sheets and pillowcases. And there's two guys who own the store, and they come up to me and they say, Randel, you're a pretty nice guy. We'd like you to become our partner. There'll be three of us. We'd like to take this little linen store around the area, maybe even make it national, build it into something. And of course, I'm a big real estate developer. So I say, you know, I think not. I'm very busy with all my fancy big deals. Why don't you guys go ahead? I really don't think the country needs another linen store, but go ahead. Any guesses? Bed Bath & Beyond. I'd be a jillionaire right now. But that's the yin and yang, being an entrepreneur, the ups and the downs. Listen, you've been very, very patient. This business is a wonderful business, but it's about risk. It's about understanding what people have done ahead of you. It's about guts. It's about perseverance. It's about never saying die. Thank you for listening. I enjoyed it.